Hello, everyone. My name is Tanya Prochko. I am the host of today's conversation with Shulamit Lando. Shulamit is a mind-body psychotherapist and certified medical coach. Hi, Shulamit. Thank you for
Hi,
joining us today.
thank you for having me, Tanya.
I just want to say a few words about why we're having this talk. This is through Get Help Israel, the Israel Association of Mental Health Professionals, where we have 250 private clinicians who specialize in a variety of areas. And today we wanted to introduce you to someone very special. Shulamit, I just wanted to say that every time someone mentions your name, or whether they've met you or worked with you or trained with you, they only have wonderful things to say about you. So I really thought that it was important to invite you here and let our listeners get to know you and the work that you do, because I think it's really, really amazing and needs to be told. Your story needs to be told.
Thank you, Tanya.
Okay, so Shulamit, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you specialize in and how you came to specialize in this area.
Okay, I'm a body-oriented psychotherapist. I'm also a certified medical coach, life coach, and medical coach. I'm also an author. And the reason why I got to get trained in what was called body-oriented psychotherapy, and now it's body-mind psychotherapy, but then when I studied it an incarnation ago, my story is actually a healing journey. I was diagnosed with MS, very acute MS, when I was only 27.
Wow.
Yeah. And, I was told that this is progressive and this is degenerative and it's incurable and forget about it. Go home, order yourself a wheelchair, the guy said, really. Not that I have nothing against wheelchairs, but that's the way he said it. You're not going to get out of this. Mm-hmm. And so first I was invited somehow to a group therapy just to deal with the fact that I was a bag of potatoes in a corner that couldn't move, literally. Mm. And to deal with what happens to you when you get a diagnosis like that, or sure, like any. So the opportunity in this group was you do a year of therapy in this group, which was whole weekends, 2 days, almost 24 hours, not really, but almost. Okay. And then you could be trained as that kind of psychotherapy.
As a group facilitator?
No. As a therapist, as a body-oriented.
Oh, okay. Therapist. Wow.
That's what I did. So that's what I did. I did the year. I got much better, mentally, especially, emotionally, for sure. Mm-hmm. And I decided this is for me, because all the other modalities would not be able to help me where I was. No way. It was not about, I'm going to talk about this forever.
This is in Mexico.
This was in Mexico, yeah. This is many years ago. This was 82 when this whole thing started. So, there were no MRIs, there were no treatments or anything really that medical establishment could offer me. Mm-hmm. So I had to go a completely alternative and crazy way to try to heal myself, heal in the right sense of the word, which is not necessarily cure my symptoms, but just being able to deal well with my life,
Can you just differentiate for us the difference between healing and curing?
Absolutely. Curing is, let's get rid of the symptoms. That is what the medical establishment does. They give you a pill, you get rid of the symptom. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Healing, you can heal even in your deathbed. You can heal relationships, you can heal attitudes, you can heal. Heal is such a broader, wider, more beautiful, more elevated concept.
Sounds holistic.
Exactly. Holistic. That's exactly the word. Thank you. Mm-hmm. So that's what it was. It was about healing who I was in order for me to be able to understand, accept, transform, so that I could deal as best as I could with something that was going to last my whole life. At least that's the way they were presenting it.
Wow.
By the way, I have not had an attack since I was 43, maybe. I made Aliyah almost 23 years ago, and I've had one attack. But my 30s, it was one after another after another.
Sure.
I was in bed, I couldn't walk, I couldn't talk, I couldn't see. I mean, it's a nightmare of an illness. So that actually very in my flesh, got me to find out how can you actually deal with chronic illness in a better way,
This is fascinating because I'm actually listening to your story for the first time. I knew that this is something that you healed from your MS, but I never really knew the details of the story, and it's really, really fascinating. And that's I guess what led us to the topic of today's talk, which is reclaiming your life while living with a chronic condition. And that's the big question. The big question is, how can someone heal? Here we are talking about the power and the wholeness of what the word heal contains, while the physical pain and suffering of a physical condition, that's a chronic condition, is taking over. And I'm hoping that you can shed some insight on that today, based on your personal experience and afterwards your professional experience.
It's actually a huge topic, and it has a lot of aspects. So I will be able to touch on a few,
Sure.
because how can we heal is huge. And it goes all the way to how can I heal my soul? Yeah. And then in levels, my mind, my emotions, everything else, my belief system.
So why don't we start with what is the connection between the mind and the body?
What is body-mind is actually what you're asking me. No, what is body-mind? Well, we actually are a unit. We're not a body that has a mind and has emotions floating around like that's separate. Mm-hmm. You have a thought, and instantly in that second, you affect the body through the emotions. It's like the emotions are like the bridge between the mind and the body. Mm-hmm. But it's instant. If I get nervous, we all know this. If you get nervous, instantly, my hands get sweaty, my belly I may lose my belly, my mouth gets dry, all kinds of things happen to the body. Now, what does that mean? Does it happen to the body stem like that? No. You think a thought, and there's something in the brain that triggers a cascade of substances, hormones that are now instantly running in your bloodstream that create that thing that you experience as fear, or you experience as anxiety, mm-hmm. or you experience as whatever it is that you're experiencing emotionally.
Now, how important is it for us to be conscious of that connection? Meaning someone is afraid, they're having all these physiological responses, but they're not making they're not really consciously connecting the two. Is that important?
It's a good question. I am not so sure for me personally. And this is a very big chunk of who I became, and that's why I learned so much all the time. For me, knowledge is power. If I understand, so if I change my physiology, I can change my thoughts. Let's try that. Let's sit straight. Let's look up. Let's breathe deep, because then something is going to change, Yeah. If I understand how it works, it helps me. And that's a lot of what I teach the people that I work with, understand what's going on, and then you can affect it. Somehow.
So what you're saying is the pain is only part of the equation, but how we think about the pain and how we are on a mental and emotional level experiencing that whole chronic condition can also impact the physical response.
Everything goes together back and forth. If I am in pain, it's going to affect all my relationships, all my attitudes, my being in the world, how I perform. That's evident, mm-hmm. right? And at the same time, for example, as a very simple example, how I use my words, which is how I think about things. Yeah. If I tell you, Tanya, I have a bad headache, like that, neutral. My body, my headache is a 5 from 0 to 10. A 5. If I tell you I have a horrible headache, just because I added the word horrible, it's a 7, 8. Mm-hmm. Now, if I told you this headache is killing me, this pain becomes instantly a 10. Mm-hmm. The experience of it changes because I use different words.
Mhm.
which means that I'm actually thinking about it different.
Mhm. So let's work it from the other direction. When I'm in pain, and I'm speaking completely from my own personal experience of it, I find myself to be more irritable, less patient, don't feel like dealing with anything else because I'm engrossed in the pain.
Sure.
What would be the formula in that situation to define the pain with differently?
If you are in pain, I don't know that if you were in pain in front of me, I don't think that I would be explaining anything about the pain with you. I would go body mind, and I would go to your body, and I would teach you or remind you and accompany you and how to breathe right, so that you can calm the sympathetic nervous system, which is the fight flight that has you freaking out
Mm-hmm.
about this,
Mm-hmm.
therefore all these things that you described, and turn on the parasympathetic system, which is the one that helps you calm down and rest and digest and repair. That's what I would do. I would teach you how to breathe first. Then you have access to your intelligence, to your wisdom, not before.
Yeah.
When we are in fight or flight, what happens physiologically see, I know these things. When I have to know them. When you are in fight or flight, when you're freaking out because something's happening to you and you feel threatened, yeah, what happens biologically is you're gonna have to fight, and you're gonna have to flee, right? So what happens? The blood gets off the brain, goes to the limbs so that you can fight, or to the legs so that you can run away. And there is blood in the brain. Of course, you would die without it,
Right.
but there's not enough blood for you to tap into your higher consciousness,
Mm-hmm.
into your intelligence, into your resources even. You can't.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
And as you're speaking, as a woman who's had children, it's reminding me of the idea of labor pain and being able to consciously and mindfully tackle that pain and have a very, positive and present experience versus a very debilitating and painful,
experience.
traumatic labor.
Yeah. Through the breath mainly, right?
Through the breath, through whatever conscious work that you're doing in that moment.
Exactly.
Fascinating. Okay. So Shulamit, tell us, part of, I think, why our listeners are interested in this talk is what you just explained, and understanding how body-mind psychotherapy works, how we might not be able to change our physical pain and our chronic condition, but we can be able to regain control of our lives and live still a healing life, even though we can't cure the condition. Am I understanding this correctly? And can you tell us a little bit more about the type of chronic conditions that you have successfully treated and worked with in your experience?
Sure. I work mainly, not only, but mainly with what's called the autoimmune illnesses, because I have one, therefore that's what I most know about. And people look for me because of that. So, first of all, not only that, but I volunteer in a holistic center, Yuri Stern, it's called, here in Jerusalem,
Wow.
for people with cancer.
Beautiful.
So I've worked with cancer for many, 7, 8 years already. I don't even remember how many.
Right.
Yeah, 5, 7 years.
Right.
And so I work with cancer. I work with MS. I work with Parkinson. I've worked with lupus. I worked with what's called the autoimmune illnesses, mainly. But people come sometimes for issues with pain and migraines and whatever people have. Yeah.
Amazing. And you wrote a book, yeah?
I wrote a book that is called Hope Beyond Illness, a guide to living well with a chronic condition.
Wow. Do you have the book nearby? Maybe you can show us what it looks like.
This looks very old already, but this is how it looks like.
It looks red. It doesn't look old, which is
Red.
good.
But I have it in Spanish, newer.
Oh, so Shulamit, what languages do you speak other than Spanish, English? What languages do you work? What languages do you work in?
I work in English, in Spanish, and in Hebrew.
Amazing. Okay, that's important for our listeners to know. And if someone was interested in purchasing your book, where can they get it?
Amazon.
In Amazon. Do you
Amazon.
have a local place in Israel that?
No.
No. Okay.
No.
Amazon. Now they ship to Israel, so it's a little more accessible. Okay. Amazing. Is there anything that any advice that you want to offer to any of the listeners here today?
Um, it's a little broad, but
Well,
yes.
I'll give you more of, I'll narrow it down. People who feel hopeless, people who feel this is my life now. This is what I have to suffer through for the rest of my life. That hopelessness, when you know that this is like, there's no cure, that hopelessness can be really, really big.
Very, very big. So what I will tell you, the person who's feeling like that, is one thing that I wrote in my book is, in talking about what is healing, I'll get to what you're asking, is you will know that you got to a healing place when you can experience serenity in the presence of your illness. So serenity goes first. It's one of the things that go first. You have to get to that place. For that, you have to get rid of your fear, maybe. And that, I say, one of the things is education. The other thing, there's incredible modalities out there like tapping that has helped me incredible. It wasn't
EFT.
available. EFT tapping, emotional freedom technique tapping. There's so much information, free information online that anybody can use to help themselves. And then, it's the first step. It's not the deepest way. It's not, you don't go as fast as possible with it when you just watch a video, but you know what? It's a wonderful first step. Then it's also self-help. Definitely use that. Also, don't believe in it. Medicine is wonderful to patch you together, to patch you together. You have an accident, they patch you together, they're wonderful, but they don't know everything. They don't know what they, what's the word? I'm sorry, but I have a salad of languages, as I said in my head. Sometimes they give you a death sentence, a sentence that is not necessarily so. So don't believe it till the end. You don't have to believe it all. There's so many alternatives and so many other ways. And there's not one illness out there that was diagnosed as irreversible that has not been reversed. There's tons of cases of they're called spontaneous remissions. Me and other people call it radical remissions. People in stage 4 cancer, they were not going to go out.
Right.
They had done all the chemotherapies and radiations and everything. They did everything, and they said, "Sorry, we can't do anything more about you." And they're still around there 30 years later because they changed their lifestyle, their diet. I would say, check out the gut-brain connection. There's something new happening. It's very new. It's very real about what really is the connection between the brain and the gut and the microbiome. How do you say it in English? Microbiome. The microbiome. You have to learn these things because you can absolutely change your wellness if you go there, if you learn it, but act on it, because only knowing, you have to change your life around. There's something in the way you are living that facilitated the creation of this illness that you're suffering. Something in the way you're living. So you're going to have to change your lifestyle, probably. So if you know that you could, our intuition says, oh, I should stop doing this, or I should eating that, or should, all those shoulds that we know intuitively, act on it. It's worth it. You can really change your life completely. You don't have to be a victim of your circumstance.
Right. It just might look different than what the original plan was, what the original vision was.
Well, it's actually, isn't it an invitation for transformation?
You said the words perfectly.
I don't know anybody with cancer, for example, that I work so much with, that they don't eventually, maybe not at the moment is a nightmare. Every illness is a nightmare in the moment. I didn't have fun for many, many years. I wasn't speaking like this for decades, okay? But it comes to a moment of realization in which you understand that thanks to the illness, you changed your life. You became a different person. There's presence in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's presence in it. I mean, I would have never wanted the present. Thank you. But since you gave it to me and I opened the box, you know what? There's a transformation there.
Yeah. Otherwise, it's a lost opportunity. It's a lost opportunity for transformation if you don't grab it.
Exactly. And now, what else would I say? Meditate. It doesn't have to be.
Is that something you teach? Is that something to teach? Because from speaking to people, if I ever mention meditation, it's a lot of people are like, I don't do that. I can't. I can't.
So let me say,
you teach in your therapy with your clients?
I teach them I'll teach them how it is possible. What do I mean? We hear meditation and we see a monk cross-legged and meditating. It doesn't have to be that. It doesn't have to be our concept of meditation. Silence time, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, gag, no more. 20 minutes of silence and breathing a day so that you learn how it is that you can get control of your nervous system. That's all. Get out of fight and flight into rest and digest.
Mm-hmm.
Learn how to do that in your brain after a little bit of time and practice. It learns how to do it, and then you can do it. You don't meditate to get good at meditation. You meditate to get good at life. So you give yourself those 20 minutes in the morning and the evening of silence so that you know that you can tackle your brain. And eventually, actually, if you incorporate the food and the meditation and the physical exercise and the silence practice and everything you know, eventually you end up having the surprise that, hey, I'm not having attacks anymore. I'm not having symptoms anymore. Migraine, it went away. It just, things go away. The body transforms with what we live.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Are you offering any kind of a consultation if a client wants to learn more about working with you and reach out?
Absolutely. So first of all, I have my private practice, and you can.
Where is your private practice, Shulamit?
It's in Jerusalem and also online. I've always worked online. Since online exists, I've worked online. I have support groups for people going through illness. I have therapeutic courses.
You currently have a group going on?
I'm right now starting a support group that is in the webpage of GHI.
We'll post the link for that group for anyone who's interested.
Thank you. So I'm only now starting to advertise it. So it's not gelled yet, but it's there. It's the possibility of a support group and also a therapeutic course workshop, experiential workshop to go through. See, I base my workshop on my book my book has links to videos and all kinds of exercises. So I have people go through that same process that I went through. And in 3 months, they changed their life. For example, one. And Millie is a young 30-something-year-old doctor with MS. She got the diagnosis of MS like 4 months after she got married. And she so much wanted to get pregnant. And she was freaking out. She was so afraid, crying, sobbing, went to tell her husband that she released him, that she was willing to divorce because what now was coming was a nightmare. She's a doctor. She knew what the medical literature says.
Yeah.
Not only the medication, I told you, degenerative, incurable, progressive. You were gonna only get worse from now on. And that's when I was.
No wonder the mind goes into fight or flight. When you hear those kind of messages, that's very hard to not go into panic mode.
Not only that, that is for sure true. And on top of that, they are hypnotic. They're hypnotic orders. You're never gonna never get better. Get bad, worse all the time. They're hypnotic I mean, this
So
is what
tell
I
us
believe.
about what you did with her, Shulamit.
So whatever I did, she came to my group, and I did everything that I know to do with myself and everybody else with her. So at the end, she told me, you know what? My life changed. I was so afraid. I don't have fear anymore. I know, I understand what I have. The illness is here. She went like this. It's sitting here. It's going to live with me always, but I'm not afraid of it anymore. And that makes my whole life different.
Wow.
What happened?
Getting the chills right now, by the way.
Yeah. 2 months later, after saying that she could not get pregnant because she wasn't going to be able to hold her child, and she wasn't able to get pregnant, actually. She wasn't permitting the body to go there. She's pregnant. She's pregnant. She's happy. She's fine. Corona doesn't matter. I can deal with this. I could deal with that. I can deal with that. And that's really what it is. If this is your reality, how do you deal with this better? Even if it doesn't.
Here is the example of being able to say, I can deal with it, and then your body feeling like it can deal with it. Versus I'm dying or I'm never going to get better. Yeah. Fascinating.
And really, it's like you start doing whatever it is you do, and you start healing also the body. I'm saying it doesn't matter if it doesn't go away, if the symptoms don't go away. No, once you start healing, eventually, if you have the time, and if it's in the cards also, because we're not in control of everything, evidently. If it is in our path, the possibility, we start healing, and then we start curing. The body is maybe the last layer, from the mind and the emotions and whatever layers that we don't even know how to talk about them. Yeah. The body is the outside, the last layer. It also starts curing itself because you're healing every other aspect of it.
Incredible.
Listen, what we believe is what determines what's going to happen, because the term placebo is what I believe.
Yeah.
If I believe that I can cure this, I'm going to cure it. If I believe that I can, and that's called nocebo, I can't. It's in your belief system.
Well, I think also it's less important to have the focus of I'm going to work on my mind so that I can get cured, because again, we don't want to give any false hope there. But it sounds like it's really just about accepting your situation, so it's no longer your enemy that you're trying to fight fruitlessly, so that you can live a peaceful life, even if that your physical condition is still there.
Exactly. Accepting things as they are also, because how am I going to clean this table if I don't look at where the GFAN is?
Yeah.
I mean, I need to look at it, accept it as is, and then when I stop resisting and fighting what is, then I can start creating a new reality.
Shulamit, you do such important work. I'm really, really impressed and so happy that we got to share a little bit and snippets of what you do with the listeners. And I encourage you all to reach out to Shulamit, even if it's just for a quick phone call to see if she can help you in any way. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm offering a free consultation, the first free half hour. So
amazing.
Just to see if we have chemistry, if we like each other, if we can help each other. Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you for being here, and thank you all for watching and listening. We're here as an organization, Get Help Israel, for meeting any kind of mental health needs that you may have. Feel free to reach out to us, and we'll be happy to see if we can find you the right help. And Shulamit, thanks again.
Thank you, Tanya.
Have a wonderful day.
And thank you, everybody, for listening to this.
Take care.